So I managed to create a sprite animation that goes from one frame to another. And the animation looks like this. I have the start frame here and the end frame, and this is my sprite sheet. And in my CSS, I have my animation that goes with 4 steps, the number of steps between each frame. So that would be 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then it stops at this one here. But say I wanted another kind of animation. When it's unmuted, I would like this speaker to vibrate to show that it actually creates sound. And I can do that with a different sprite animation. And in this video, I'm going to show how to create repeating sprite animations. First, I'm simply going to copy my artboard, this artboard here. I'm just going to press Alt and then drag the entire artboard, and also have Shift pressed and move it to exactly 200 pixels. Hidden or locked objects will not be moved. That is not going to be a problem because we are actually going to remove all of this here. Because what I want is, I want this speaker here to vibrate back and forth a bit, and the sound waves to look like they come from the speaker. So this here, that's actually going to be my middle frame. So I'm going to move it and just drag and hold Shift and use my smart guides to see if it hits exactly. Yes, it's 2 pixels from the border. Perfect. And then I'm going to copy this one time here, and yet still use the smart guides, and one more, and also use the smart guides. So this is 2 pixels. Is this also correct? Does this start at 2 pixels in? No, it does not. Now it does. And it also looks like everything is moved down a bit. And let's fix that. Mark everything and transform it and move it up like there. 168. I thought I moved it 200. Huh. Isn't this at... No, it's at 168. Oh, never mind. So here we have the speaker. This is the normal position. This one should be bended a bit inwards, and this should be bended a bit more. And the way we bend something is with this anchor point tool that's beneath the pen tool. And we just take this one and drag it just a bit. And to make sure that we can copy this, no, I'll just take this one and drag it, yeah, just a bit more. That looks fine. So this is one direction, and then let's just go in the other direction. So drag, Alt and Shift. I think this is, no, this is correct. And Alt and Shift. Take a look here at my transform. Are they correct? Yes. 360. 386, that is 384. That's, yep. I forgot. I forgot if I can calculate. Okay, so this one should be bended out a bit. And this one here should then be out a bit more. Like there. So this is first part of the animation, and I just want to see if that works. So let me save, no, export. First check out my mute button spritesheet copy. It's not a good name. Let's call it unmuted animation and export that. Unmuted animation, just export that one. Yes, excellent. And then I'm going to create a class, and let's just put it on directly on the mute button. Let's call it unmuted. And here let's add my unmuted animation name, unmuted keyframe, and I always start with an iteration count of infinite and a duration of 1 second, and then keyframes. That will be the same, unmuted keyframes goes from, that would be exactly the same as we've had before, background position 0%, 0% to a background position of minus 400%, 0%. And we also need the steps. Four steps. Oh yes, and of course the most important thing, the different background image. See, we have the speaker. But can you also see there's something weird going on here? It's wobbling a bit. And usually this wobbling is because we haven't been careful enough with aligning everything in our sprite sheet. So let's check that. And I'm going to create a new layer called backgrounds. And just make sure it's behind everything else. And then I'm going to put a rectangle here from 120. And now my smart guides are kind of hurting me. I can turn them off. No, I have to release the mouse before turning them off. I'll just make one there and then I'll transform it. 128 and 64. So this is a nice background, and I'll select a red color and just make sure I move it into the backgrounds. So this is my first background, and I'm just going to turn off everything else, and then I'm going to copy this background here, Alt, drag, Shift, so move it and change the color to a nice orange one, and copy and move and change the color to a nice yellow one, and move and change the color to a nice green one, and move and change the color to a nice cyan or teal. I don't know what you call it. I call it cyan. So these are our backgrounds, and if we export again, then we should be able to see the animation going from red, orange, yellow, green, and cyan. Once we reload, and we can see the cyan is missing, because when we have repeating animations, we do not just have 4 steps, we have 5 before, because we want to have still between them 1, 2, 3, 4, but then loop around, so there's a different one, 5 here, between the end and the beginning. So let's see again, we have 5 here and minus 500. So now we have all 4 colors, but we can see there's a bit of a miss color here, and if I make the screen larger, it's on the other side. So it's not actually the sprite, it's the browser that can't figure out how to position it correctly. And we can see here, if I change this size width to 128 pixels and the height to 64 pixels, then there's no problem at all, but it's also not responsive. And if I change it to 1.8 VV and 6.4 VV, it looks like there's also not a problem. But there is a bit sometimes, and it's I have not found a solution for this. This annoys me like nothing else, because sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes you get a bit of wobbliness and it changes every time you change the size of your screen. I have no solution for this. I hate this. But we'll just have to live with it. At least we know there's nothing wrong with our drawing. So let's turn off the backgrounds and turn on everything else and export it once again. And make sure it looks correct. So the speaker goes it should really go back and forth, back and forth. So let's fix that and add an animation direction, alternate. Then it goes in one direction and the other. Still wobbly, still wobbly. We can see it's a bit slow, maybe make it a bit faster. 0.5 seconds. Bit slower. 0.7. Then we also need the rest of the speaker to move with it, and the sound waves as well. So the speaker here should be easy. This one should move 1 pixel. This one should move 2 pixel. This should move 1 pixel in the other direction. And this should move 2 pixel in that direction. Let's export again. And reload. Now we have the speaker going back and forth. So this is one way you can create animations, by simply remembering to move the same amount of pixels in each direction. One thing that I still want though is I still want the button to work so that I can click it and change the animation here. So I would want it to be, if I can just make this a bit smaller so I can actually see something. Let's make it even smaller. So right now, this one here is unmuted. But I would like it so that I could set it from, go from muting to unmuting. So remove the muting, set it unmuting, and when that, and then set it to unmuted. But the problem is that I have two animations running. So I need to run one first and then wait for it to be done and then set the other. So in my script here, when I have muted it, that's fine. I have removed unmuting and added my muting. Fine. And here then when I unmute it, I add the unmuting and then I have to wait. When that animation is done, add event listener, animation. Then I have to call my show unmuted fix. Let's call it that, a function. And that would give me my, take my cursor selector here and remove the unmuting class. And add my unmuted. And I better also remove the event listener. Better beautify it a bit. And let's see. I just have to get rid of this one unmuted here. No, that should be okay. Okay, so I also have to remove the unmuted when I start the muting. So here I add muting, so I also have to remove unmuted. So it's mute. I only have the muting, and I remove the muting, and it's now unmuted. So I have two animations. One that just goes from one frame to another and stays there, like this, and one that loops indefinitely on the same 4 frames.